Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into one of the most epic and dramatic stories of all time. A tale of two kings, one chosen and one rejected. It's a story about jealousy, faith, courage, and the massive consequences of our choices. We're talking about King Saul and a young shepherd boy named David. This isn't just ancient history, it's a masterclass in leadership, character, and what happens when we lose our way. Let's set the scene. Israel is at a pivotal moment. For centuries, they'd been led by judges, charismatic leaders raised up by God for specific tasks. But the people wanted more. They looked at the nations around them, with their powerful kings and armies, and said, "We want one of those." So, God grants their request, and a man named Saul is chosen to be Israel's very first king. And at first Saul seems like the perfect choice. He's tall, handsome, and looks the part. He starts off with humility and promise, but pretty soon, the cracks start to show. The pressure of leadership gets to him, and he begins to make decisions based on fear and pride instead of faith. A crucial moment comes when he's supposed to wait for the prophet Samuel to offer a sacrifice before a battle. Saul gets impatient, takes matters into his own hands, and disobeys a direct command. This act of disobedience becomes a pattern, marking a critical turning point in his reign. His repeated failures to follow God's guidance lead to his eventual rejection as king. He starts relying on his own human wisdom, and that leads to spiritual instability and a string of critical mistakes. While Saul's star is fading, God is already preparing his replacement. And it's the most unlikely candidate you could imagine. Not a prince or a mighty warrior, but a young shepherd boy from Bethlehem named David. While Saul was chosen for his outward appearance, David was chosen for his heart. A heart full of faith. The prophet Samuel anoints David in secret, a quiet moment that signals a massive shift. Divine favor is moving from Saul to David, setting the stage for a new era of leadership for Israel. Now, this is where the story really heats up. The Philistines, Israel's sworn enemies, gather for war. And they have a secret weapon, a giant named Goliath. For 40 days, this 9-foot behemoth taunts the Israelite army, challenging any man to single combat. The entire army, including King Saul, is paralyzed with fear. But David, who is just there to bring supplies to his older brothers, hears Goliath's taunts. And he doesn't hear the voice of a giant. He hears someone defying the God of Israel. While everyone else sees an unbeatable foe, David sees an opportunity for God to show his power. He goes to King Saul and declares his intention to fight Goliath. Saul is skeptical. He looks at David, this young shepherd, and says, "You can't fight him, you're just a boy." But David has a different kind of resume. He tells Saul, "I've protected my father's sheep from lions and bears. God delivered me from them, and he will deliver me from this Philistine." He's not bragging, he's stating his faith. His confidence isn't in himself, but in God. He refuses Saul's heavy armor, choosing instead the simple tools he knows best, his sling and a few smooth stones. This is the classic underdog story. David walks onto the battlefield, and Goliath scoffs. "Am I a dog that you come at me with sticks?" David's response is one of the most powerful declarations of faith ever recorded. He shouts back, "You come against me with sword and spear, but I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. This day the Lord will deliver you into my hands." David puts a stone in his sling, whips it around, and lets it fly. The stone sinks into Goliath's forehead, and the giant falls face down on the ground. David's victory is immediate and absolute. It's a symbol of faith triumphing over fear. It's not just about a boy beating a giant. It's about God's power being made perfect in our weakness. This single event catapults David from an unknown shepherd to a national hero. This is a pivotal moment in Israel's history. The defeat of Goliath showcases God's ability to deliver his people through the most unlikely means. It proves that true strength isn't found in armor or weapons, but in spiritual conviction. And this victory solidifies David's destiny, foreshadowing his future as king. As you can imagine, David's newfound fame doesn't sit well with King Saul. When the army returns, the people sing, "Saul has slain his thousands, and David his tens of thousands." That little line of poetry lights a fire of jealousy in Saul that consumes the rest of his life. His insecurity spirals into full-blown paranoia. The man who was once a promising leader is now just a shadow of his former self, completely undermined by his envy of David. This is where Saul's tragedy deepens. Instead of celebrating David's victories, which are victories for all of Israel, Saul sees him as a threat. His pride blinds him to David's loyalty. David continues to serve Saul faithfully, even as the king's jealousy intensifies. It gets so bad that Saul actively tries to kill David on multiple occasions, even throwing a spear at him while David is playing the harp to soothe the king's tormented spirit. The contrast couldn't be sharper. God's favor rests heavily on David, while Saul spirals further into darkness and spiritual decline. This story of David and Goliath is so much more than a historical account. It's a blueprint for facing the giants in our own lives. We all have them. those overwhelming challenges, fears, or obstacles that seem impossible to overcome. David's story teaches us that our perceived weaknesses can actually be our greatest strengths. He didn't try to be a soldier. He was a shepherd, and he used the skills he had: creativity, agility, and a sling. What are your unique strengths? Your creativity, your resilience, your unique perspective. Embrace those. David's story also shows us that courage isn't the absence of fear, it's taking action despite fear. He confronted his fear head-on. That's the key to overcoming our own obstacles. And most importantly, David's courage was fueled by his faith. He believed he wasn't alone. That same faith can empower us against our life's giants. When you focus on your faith, whatever that looks like for you, you realize you're not fighting your battles alone. Think for a moment about the personal giants you're facing right now. Maybe it's a career challenge, a difficult relationship, or an internal struggle with anxiety or self-doubt. David's story encourages us to reframe these giants. Instead of seeing them as insurmountable problems, we can see them as opportunities for growth, opportunities to prove our own strength and faith. Using habitual courage, stepping out of our comfort zone day by day, can transform our entire approach to adversity. Ultimately, Saul's story ends in tragedy. His reign, which started with so much potential, ends on the battlefield, not in a blaze of glory, but in despair. He takes his own life, a final, heartbreaking symbol of the consequences of unfaithfulness and turning away from God. The transition from Saul to David is one of the most profound leadership case studies in history. Saul's fall is a stark warning against pride, jealousy, and disobedience. David's rise is a testament to the power of faith, humility, and courage. His victory over Goliath wasn't just a military win. It established him as the kind of leader who trusted in God above all else, paving the way for his reign as Israel's greatest king. This narrative of two kings reminds us that true strength lies not in conventional power, but in faith. It shows us how divine intervention can work through the most unlikely people and turn our greatest challenges into our biggest victories. David's story continues to inspire countless individuals to face their own Goliaths, not with fear, but with the bold courage that comes from knowing that with faith, anything is possible. Thanks so much for watching. If this story resonated with you, hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into timeless tales. Let me know in the comments what giants you're facing and how you find the courage to confront them. See you in the next video, and God bless.